And that is the first time that I think anybody has ever seen us have technical difficulties like we
It's a
did.
double dose.
Where-
No, it's just a double dose of the intro. That's all it is. It's like JB
Am I
double dose.
producing the show?
Double dose.
No, JB, if you produce
Hang
a
on, am I
show,
producing?
if you produce the show, I will fly out to Indianapolis myself right now and stop it because that is not allowed. Jim Leyritz, welcome to the show.
Technical issues.
What's happening, guys? How are you doing?
I am great because you're here, and I am a huge Yankee fan like JB. So he and I are especially happy to have you here because you have provided some really great moments for us.
There's been a few.
There have been.
Yes.
So
definitely.
JB, I'll let you start it because I know what you want to ask, and I'm letting you take the question. I'm being nice.
So I've told the story of 1995 so many times. So what did that moment feel like against Seattle in the 15th inning?
Well, yeah, I tell everybody that to me, even though the 96 home run became more important than anything with the organization, that 95 walk-off home run after catching all 15 innings, after Buck Showalter coming up to me going, "Hey, this is your last at bat, make it count," because Mike Stanley's going in to catch if we don't win right here. And then I hit the walk-off home run around the bases, Yankee Stadium. We go up 2-0. I get to the pile. They all pile on. We get done. I walk over to Buck. I give him a hug, and I said, "Hey, Skip, did I make it count?" And that was it.
But what was his response to that? I'm just curious.
Buck and I had been together for 7 years. He knew my personality, and he just gave a little smirk on his face like,
I love
it.
It's weird. I love that. I mean, John, you're an Orioles fan. You like Buck as much as we do. He's done great things for everybody.
Yeah, I definitely miss him. I definitely prefer him over who we have now. So, yeah, give me Buck back any day of the week.
JB,
what was the transition like from 95 to 96 when it went from Buck to Joe Torre?
You know what? It was different. It was a situation where, we knew that he was going to get fired, especially when he was told that he had to let some of his coaches go. I knew Buck wouldn't do that. Buck was too loyal, and he was not going to, it was nobody's fault, as he felt, but his own, to lose with our closer in the bullpen, similar to what he did in Baltimore. But, years later. But with the way Wetland had been pitching that series, with Ken Griffey Jr. coming up, you kind of understood it a little bit. But the other thing was we had Andy Pettit. We had Sterling Hitchcock. We had those guys in the bullpen. If you wanted a lefty-lefty matchup with Griffey, you could have got it from one of those guys and then went to Wetland to close it out. But, that didn't happen. And, my situation with Buck, we were wondering all offseason because I was not signed. I was on a year-to-year contract. And I was kind of saying, okay, depending on what changes happen, depending on my playing time, I may not go back in 96. And then, of course, Joe Torre comes aboard. My agents met with Mr. Steinbrenner. They talked to Joe Torre about, hey, if he comes back, he's going to catch Pettit. Is he going to get some more at-bats? Because the year before I only got 200 and something at-bats. That I wanted more. And Torre convinced my agents that, yes, I'll get him 400 at-bats because he can play multiple positions, and he's still going to catch Andy Pettit. And that was what going through 96, that was what I was looking forward to, was hopefully getting 400 at-bats, which didn't happen, but our team was winning, so it didn't really matter.
So since Joe was so confident and so it was pulling for you to come back, what did that mean to you as a player? And him being, for you, the new manager, right? You don't know him really yet in terms of his managerial stuff. What did that mean to you? What was that experience like? And just what was he like as a manager?
Well, it meant a lot to me. It meant even more that Andy Pettit actually called him and said, hey, listen, please don't change this. Him and I worked very well together and at least start the season that way. And Joe was very honest with Andy. He said, Andy, Jimmy will catch every single, time you go out, except if we're facing a tough lefty and I want to get a couple more right-handed bats in the lineup, Joe is going to probably catch you and Jim will DH, that type of situation. But other than that, I mean, for him to call me in the office to explain to me, hey, I know you play multiple positions. You know, you're great coming off the bench late in the game. You know, I'm going to use you as much as I can. And that was really a confidence builder going into 96.
JB, I know you have a question about Andy Pettitte.
So what was so special about your relationship with Andy that you became his personal catcher? Because you don't see that much in the game.
Yeah. So he came up in 95, and Mike Stanley and I were doing the catching then. And he did not like throwing to Mike. Mike didn't have frame pitches as well as I did. And Andy thought with that cutter, he was taking away a lot of pitches, that it wasn't making as effective. And I used to catch Andy in the bullpen on his work days before I became his personal catcher, and he loved the way I caught him. And I was the kind of guy that, you know, I was a hitter first, catcher second, but I always thought like a hitter, and Andy loved that. And, you know, all of a sudden I would talk to him in the bullpen, and, you know, he went a couple outings with Mike Stanley. It didn't go well. And then all of a sudden he switched over to me, and we finished out the season in 95 together. He went 9-3 with me. And that's when he went to Torrey at the beginning of 96 and said, listen, can we at least keep this going? And Joe gave him the blessing. Yeah.
That's got to feel pretty great that, you know, somebody I'm sure you consider not only a personal friend, but, you know, a teammate that says, hey, I don't care if he does nothing. If he never does another thing on this team, he has got to catch for me because otherwise I can't pitch. I mean, that's got to be the most unbelievable compliment as a catcher in particular.
Oh, absolutely. And I think the reason why is Andy really was confident in me. No matter what pitch I put down, he never shook me. I made it a joke sometimes. I'd walk out in the 6th inning and go, hey, dude, I'm going to shake myself just so it looks like you're thinking out here. You know, but he was just so confident in all 4 pitches that he had that it made my job that much easier. That, okay, him and I would, the one really good thing that we had was, you know, I would walk in the outfield on his days that he didn't pitch. I didn't speak to him on the day he pitched. We had our little meeting with Mel Stoudemire. We talked about the way we were going to, but as soon as the game started, I never spoke to him unless it was mechanical things that I was seeing.
So no conversations in the dugout, nothing?
Nothing.
Wow.
Nothing.
Okay.
And he really felt I was so prepared because we had talked during the week that he had that confidence. And it just one thing led to another. And, you know, it was just a really great relationship that we had. And we were complete opposites.
Yeah.
We were complete opposites.
Going back to the 95 postseason, the wild card round, I got to ask. I was at game 1 and 2 in the upper deck in right field. Why do we pitch to Griffey 3-1 all the time? How many home runs did he hit in game 1 and 2 where it's 3-1? And watching that, I mean, he's got one of the sweetest swings ever. The only other swing that I kind of compare that I love is Don Mattingly, who was on the team. But every time it was 3-1 to Griffey, you'd see it was like, they throw a pitch, home run. Well, what was the thought process behind it? I mean,
honestly, at that particular moment when Griffey, when he gets in that kind of a groove, you're right. We probably shouldn't have pitched him half the time, you know. But it was a situation where it was a 1-run game. You know, actually, the one home run that Watson gave up to him, it was a 2-run lead, and it got to be 1 run. So I mean, it was just a situation that you don't ever. The intensity of the postseason, and it was our first one, was so great in that series against Seattle that it was almost like you were on the edge of your seat every single pitch, that every pitch was going to make a difference. And that's probably why we pitched to him more than we probably should have.
So we talk about 95, and unfortunately the way things ended were not great. And so that leaves a bitter taste in your mouth, I'm sure. And you come back for 96. Can you just describe, you know, winning a championship is, I'm sure, one of the greatest feelings ever, but how extra sweet it probably felt after that 95 season and the way things, you know, ended, unfortunately?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that was so great about that 96 team was all of the stories that came out of that team. Darryl Strawberry coming back from drug addiction. Doc Gooden, the same thing. David Cohn get an aneurysm in April and then come back in August and pitched 7 innings of a no-hit game in Oakland that just all of a sudden just gave us that lift that we needed in late August to say, hey, if this guy can go out with an aneurysm and pitch like this, and he's putting himself on the line, we need to step up and do more. And it really just catapulted our team. And, of course, Joe Torre's brother getting the heart before Game 6, it just topped off everything. And I just, like I said, I think sometimes you talk about the 96 team, you talk about the 98 team that were destined to win. I think we had that with our 96 team, is that, yeah, we embarrassed ourselves the first 2 games at home against Atlanta, but we never felt like we were out of it. And even, Joe says, he made a comment on the airplane that the Braves were talking to their newspaper saying that they were just glad they weren't going to have to go back to Atlanta or to New York again to win the championship because they hated playing there. And Joe just said, all we got to do is get him back, because if we get him back to New York, guys, they don't want to play here. And that was our goal when we left for Atlanta.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
JB or John, do you have a question? Because if not, I do have another question I want to ask, but I want to share the floor here.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. So this is something that I take no stock in, but I want to ask you. You were his teammate. I've seen it all over the internet, and it's usually, I think, just people looking for, a story. Derek Jeter is one of the greatest Yankees of all time, and there's no question about that. But a lot of people on the internet, again, I don't agree with it, have argued that not only was A-Rod the better shortstop, but that Jeter was, selfish and he should have let A-Rod take short and he moved to third. You played with Jeter for, in 2 different stints with the Yankees. Is there any, validity to what they say in terms of who he is as a person? Is he, does he have this big ego that people come out to say, or are they just, like I suspect that they're just looking for a story?
I think mostly they're looking for a story, because I tell the same story about Derek that, time and time again, especially to young kids. When I was in the offseason of 96, before Derek's first spring training, we were working out together in Tampa at the Himes complex. And I came out in early January. He came out in early January. I met the kid, and, he was firing balls from day one, like as hard as he could throw. Now, granted, he was 19, 20 years old.
Right.
He would take 250, 300 ground balls. He'd go in a cage. He would take 250 swings. And he was doing all these things. And I kept saying to him, kid, it's only January. We got 2 more months before we go to spring training. Don't burn yourself out before we get there. And he said, no, Jimmy, he goes, this is just my routine. I did it through, I've done it through high school. I've done it in the minor leagues. That's just how I feel. I need to get myself ready to play. And what I thought was great was he continued that workout and that regime. And then, of course, we win the World Series in 96. He wins Rookie of the Year in 96. He wins in 98. I left in 97, 98. I came back in 99. I come back to them in Texas on a road trip where it's, in July, or June, which is hot as could be. And I get there early. I go to the ballpark just to get my locker ready and everything else. And I get there, and all of a sudden, Derek Jeter comes in, and what's he do? He goes out to the field, takes 250 ground balls, goes into the batting cages, takes 250 swings. This guy never changed his routine, despite the success he had already had. And as a veteran guy, as someone that this was only his 3rd or 4th year, I really respected that. And granted, no, he wasn't as talented as A-Rod. He didn't have the physical abilities that A-Rod did. But I'll tell you what, he knew how to lead a team, which A-Rod had no clue. He knew he had a personality to get along, to pick up people, to be kind of a leader at a young age and not insult people with his leadership, but more a leader by example. And that really resonated with us veterans and guys like that. And when he came to the Yankees, he was already established as the captain, already established as maybe, I don't even know when A-Rod came, but 3 or 4-time World Series champion. There's no way he was ever supposed to give up his position. And if A-Rod did want to come there, that was the caveat that said, hey, you want to be part of championship teams, you want to be a part of what has already been started, you need to make that concession. There is no doubt in anybody's mind that A-Rod was the better shortstop. But he was not the better leader. He was not the better all-around player that Derek Jeter was, from not just the physical standpoint, but the mental standpoint, the teammate standpoint. That, I was one of the guys that wasn't really in Derek's clique, but he never disrespected me. He never just, he really knew how to handle the media, how to handle the public, and how to handle the veteran teammates that he was playing with, not to be insulting. And I just think, like I said, there's really nothing that you can say about Derek Jeter in his 20-year career, never being in page 6, well, for bad things, all right, but never, ever doing something that was controversial to the success of his team. And that's what you really have to respect with Derek Jeter.
Well, I don't think anybody could have said it better.
That was a great answer. I mean, as the two of us have followed the team for years. I mean, we're talking before your lifetime, Jake, back in the '90s, but still at the same time, being in my 20s, watching the team, I have to agree with you. Derek was just an unbelievable leader. But one of the things I noticed with you just throughout your career, and not just with the Yankees, you were in the postseason with other teams. Why aren't you called Mr. October? You had some huge hits in October. Maybe you're the 1990s, early 2000 Mr. October. We had one in the 70s. You got Derek, who's Mr. November. You could be Mr. October too.
It's funny. The San Diego fans, after the '98 series, they sent me a jacket that said Mr. October 2. And I wore it to Yankee Stadium one day. And it was the funniest thing. Reggie got word of it. And I don't think he was too happy about it. But I always used to tease him. I said, hey, Reg, I didn't do all my damage here in New York, just like you. But I did some pretty good damage here, and I did some pretty good damage in San Diego. Do you realize they call me Mr. October too? And he was like, I don't know about that. And I'm like, well, I think that if you look at the numbers and what really the home runs did, the home runs that I hit with the Yankees, the '96 home run and the championship in '96 became so important to Yankee history that if the Yankees lose in '97, okay, and we would have lost in '96. In '97, Gene Michael used to tell the story all the time that when they lost in '97, George Steinbrenner came right into his office and said, fire Torre, trade Mariano, I'm done. Get rid of this.
Wow.
Yeah.
The boss was not happy.
Exactly. And Gene Michael said, George, did you forget about last year? And George said, I'll give him one more year. And that was '98.
Well,
I'm invited to Joe Torre's dinner every year to tell that story because he says it sounds better coming from you because your home run and that '96 team saved my job in '98 and really created that '98 dynasty or that late '90s dynasty. And then, of course, the home runs in San Diego. In September, there was a vote taken for the new stadium, and we didn't pass. And then we went on that run in the playoffs and get to the World Series. And, of course, most of them were my home runs against Houston and Atlanta. And we get there, and, of course, we get swept. But this is the great joke from New York. So people say to me all the time, Jimmy, what was it like in a World Series in New York? And what was the difference in San Diego? What was the difference of the two? And I said, well, here's the situation. You lose a World Series in New York, you don't leave your apartment for 3 months.
You stay hidden away. Don't let anybody see. No, they don't know I exist.
Exactly. We lost the World Series in '98. We got swept. And we still had a parade of 400,000 people in the city of San Diego. And I videotaped. I was in a car driving, and I'm videotaping with my wife and my kids. And I'm going, this would never happen in New York.
Oh, in New York, it would be, if anybody was out in New York, they'd be like throwing garbage at you
exactly.
or yelling insults at you, right? I mean, exactly. They'd be infuriated.
But that team, all of a sudden, the vote comes up in November, and you know what? The fans changed their mind. and they got approval for Petco Park. So I always tell people, I was never drafted. I was never the Derek Jeter or the A-Rod or anybody like that. But I got memories that I was part of teams that created a history that will never be forgotten for the Yankees or for the San Diego Padres. Absolutely. And that's pretty special for a guy that was never drafted.
All right, you mentioned Petco, so I got to ask this question because I say it all the time. What's your opinion on the new Yankee Stadium?
You know what? If they throw up 5 or 6 championships in the next 10 years,
it'll be okay. That'll make it okay.
One championship in 14 years doesn't cut it.
It doesn't feel like the Yankee way.
Yeah.
No,
I don't like the corporateness of it.
Yeah.
As if I was a player, but as someone who the Yankees hired to go into the suites, I love it. The old stadium only had 11 suites, and the new stadium has 67.
So you're like, all right, bring it on.
Oh wow!
I got a lot more business as far as being rehired to come and support.
It's by far beautiful. There's no question it's not beautiful. It's just the old stadium. It had personality.
It's just not the same.
That's right. No, not at all.
Well,
you gotta make money.
A few more championships.
Yeah.
And the history starts.
Absolutely, but we're talking about. It's the house that Ruth built, and it's the hits that you have in that kind of stadium, and the moments where you win World Series, where you have all those championships. Of course, it's hard to replace that because you've got 26 championships while at in that era, if you will, right before the new Yankee Stadium, and you got one since. It's totally night and day. You're right. I think some more championships will help.
Right. The greatest thing the Yankees did, and I hope they don't ever change it, is they left that field.
Yep. I love it. Every time I go, I love
to see it. They made baseball fields out of it. So kids that are playing on that field, guys like myself, we go over there every year with Ray Negron, and we do a dedication of the speech from Joe DiMaggio and where he was standing, and all these things.
Yeah.
So there's still you still get that feel that the old stadium is still around.
You can feel the ghosts.
If they did something, you'd be like, man, that's where the old stadium used to be. But you still get some nostalgia by that old stadium still being baseball fields.
I love every time I go to a game, I look at it and I go, oh, there's the old field. And it's right there. And I think it's a feature that they didn't have to do anything to do. Like they just knocked down the old stadium and they just left it. It's not like they had to build up this elaborate building to make it look nice. It's a feature that they didn't have to do any work to do, like to make it exist. And they just left it. And it's like, this is one of the smartest things because it's the best of both worlds.
Well, and that's where you give guys like Randy Levine and guys that run the Yankees, you give them a lot of credit for that forward thinking of, you know what? I don't want to lose the history of what we've created. Mm-hmm. And, those late 90 teams are the reason the new stadium was built. Let's do something. And it was just such a brilliant idea on behalf of the Yankees.
It's one of the best features about the where the location is still. You'll never lose that.
For sure. Yeah. Any other questions, guys?
I'm good. I got my important questions and I got some good stories. I'm a happy man.
I'm looking forward to my apartment again in New York. Yankees are going to be doing 60 or 70 games up there. I'm looking forward to this year at least, not just getting to October, but beating the crap out of the Astros finally and getting to the World Series.
I love to hear that.
Amen. Denzel, I hope you heard that, Denzel.
He's an Astros fan, and we do not like to hear when he talks. He just talks about them. We go, don't talk about it. Anyway, Jim, thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure talking to you.
All right, JB, Jake, and Jim, thank you guys for having me.
Have a good one. And go Yankees.
Have a great night.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
All right. It's football time, baby. John, I'm letting you take it away, my man. I shouldn't do that. It's a mistake.
Curious. How many rats do you think are in that old Yankee Stadium?
None. Because there's
probably a lot.
Old Yankee Stadium? No.
Yeah, it's probably filled.
No,
the
John,
vet when
John,
they
Super Bowl,
smashed the
Yankee
vet.
Stadium.
John, do you know what they did to Old Yankee Stadium?
I have no idea.
No, they tore it down and they left just the grass and the dirt.
Oh, I thought they
so
kept
to
it up.
use. No,
I
that
I
would
don't go.
crumble
I've
and get
been to
destroyed.
New
No,
York like
John,
twice.
John, the way it works is if this is the new Yankee Stadium, it's across the street over here. It's just a dirt field and grass. But it's one of those things when you go see it, it's really exciting and everybody loves it. Like you see it, it's like, oh my God, this is so cool. But no, they did not leave the stadium up.
That would have been cool to keep it up.
Yeah, but they couldn't. The
Guess you'd
upkeep
have to
would
pay
be.
No.
for upkeep and
It
stuff.
doesn't.
It would be.
It doesn't really happen that any stadium stays up after they replace it. It's a very rare
Right.
thing.
Yeah, it's in theory it's great, but no, that would never work.
Yeah.
But it's still there. It's literally right across the street. It is, and that's again, JB. I know you agree. It's just it's so great that it's still there. You see it and you know it, and it's just a piece of history that will hopefully
it's
forever,
beautiful. It's-
exist
By
forever.
the way,
I mean, think
thanks
about
a lot, Jim, for overlooking, the Orioles. I would appreciate it. We'll see you in October when you overlook us and just say you're getting right to the Astros. Keep overlooking the Orioles because the
Okay,
Orioles
John.
are coming for that division this year. Don't overlook us.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. All right, John. Football. I'm giving you the floor, and I really shouldn't.
Yeah, so
I'm shocked right now. I'm in shock.
I'm being
I
nice. I'm in a giving
I have-
mood today.
I have some old things I want to talk about, some statistics, or we can talk current things, NFC, AFC championships. What do you want to talk about? The Bills choke job, the Cowboys choke job?
John,
the
I'm
teams
giving
in
you.
it?
I'm giving
Where
you the
do you
floor.
wanna
I am
go?
giving you the floor to speak. Just start a
John, you
topic.
have the wheel.
I
Spin the
saw
wheel,
a
pick a
video
topic.
today on the
Okay,
Pat
here you go.
McAfee show where a guy on there, I don't know who he is, I don't watch Pat McAfee show,
Doesn't matter.
but he was basically he was doing a joke, but he was basically talking about how the Bills have won 3 straight championships because that's what all the Bills talk about is, we should be in the Super Bowl. We're going to get to the Super Bowl. We're getting back to the AFC Championship. It's all the Bills have talked about, and the Bills just talk like they've been there, done that. The Bills haven't done it. Like the Bills have done nothing but choke in the playoffs for year after year.
John,
And this
I'm
kind of
gonna-
reminds me of the Jim Kelly Bills, where
sure.
it's like, oh, hey, let's lose 4 straight.
Time out. The Jim Kelly Bills got to the Super Bowl 4 straight
Right.
years. What is
I think what
Josh
John's
Allen's
point
Bills
is they're going to just keep losing now. They're
How
doomed
about
to
you
never
talk?
win.
How about you talk
Okay,
when
but
you've done something?
to get to the Super Bowl is an accomplishment. Unfortunately,
agree,
one team can win. So I'm going to give Jim Kelly's Bills a lot of credit, but what has Josh Allen's Bills done except losing the playoffs?
Nothing.
There's a big difference between losing.
I
I'm
think
playoffs
so
to get into the
tired
Super
of
Bowl.
hearing about how the Bills are this and the Bills are that.
no,
Bills are they haven't been the class of the AFC. There's whole Josh Allen
John.
run. Everybody has talked every year about how they're the best team. They're going to be the best team. Stephon Diggs waited on the field after that 13-second loss to the Chiefs, and he
what
wouldn't
happened?
leave Arrowhead.
What
he just
happened
stood there and
next?
took it all in. And they continue to choke year after year. I'm tired of hearing about the
Not gonna
Bills and how
argue
the
with
Bills
that.
are the class. I'm sick of it. I'm done with the Bills.
they
Not
would-
as a Dolphins fan, but as a
if-
football fan.
I
I'm done with
agree.
the Bills.
Had they listened to JB's quality points and got a running back, they wouldn't be losing. The point is they don't follow
Oh.
JB's quality criticism.
I think there's a little more to it, though. I think, number one, they don't have a running back. You're right. But if you watch the way Josh Allen played, he did not play well. He tried
He didn't
on
play great
on-
in the
on-
Dolphins game or the
on
Bengals game.
third and short, instead of what most teams do, which is go for the short yardage,
Yep.
get the first down, and start the downs over again. He is going for a 30, 40-yard strike down the sidelines. And while that's all well and good on first down or even second down, on third down, it doesn't accomplish anything because he's
Well, no,
just
there are times you go deep on third and short because everyone's
Move the
playing in.
chains
I
is
don't-
what Jake is
absolutely.
saying.
But every time is my
But
point.
if
Like
you're gonna-
it's so
Right. If
constant.
you can do that once or twice, but if you're gonna do it, you have to connect. You
Yeah,
can't fail.
and it's the constant lack of connection and doing it over and over and over and over. It's sickening because it's not working. And I think the best way to describe the AFC's top 3 teams, because the Bills are still towards the top 3. I don't know if I would put them at 3. Honestly, I'd have to reevaluate after what I've seen because I'm truly just disappointed with them. But not the point. The Chiefs and Bengals are 1, 2, and there's no discussion about it. I wouldn't even rank them at 1 and 2 specifically. I would just say they're 1A, 1B at this point. They're both equally incredible, talented teams.
Yeah.
I mean, you can give the Chiefs the edge because I think they have the better they do have the better quarterback, and they do have the championship. So I can give them that.
They have the better
Yes,
quarterback?
Absolutely.
I don't know about that. I don't know. Joe
Hang
Burrow
on,
just goes
hang on.
on the road.
All of a sudden, you're going to say Joe Burrow's better. I can't believe
No,
I'm
I
hearing
didn't
this out
say
of
it
your
was
mouth.
better, but I'm not saying it's like, hey, nail the coffin
Wow.
shut.
No, I'll tell you why,
There's
John.
no
I'll tell you why.
argument.
Joe Burrow compared to Patrick Mahomes, arm strength and arm talent, I think is pretty equal. I actually give Patrick Mahomes a slight edge because of his ability to make wild kind of throws.
Arm strength, I'm gonna say Mahomes.
Joe Burrow's got a pretty good arm, but
Joe
fine.
Burrow's got a pretty good arm.
But either way, if you want to give it to Mahomes, I'm all for that. I'm on your side that Mahomes is better. So the big pro for me that Mahomes has is he's got that ability to make those sidearm throws. Now, that doesn't mean he should do it all the time, but he's got the ability to make that kind of play when he needs to, and that's an incredible talent that other quarterbacks don't share, and Joe Burrow doesn't have that. So everything else about them is pretty even overall, but I think that's something that Patrick has. And the biggest thing for me that sets Patrick above every single other quarterback, name a quarterback that can extend a play better than Patrick Mahomes. I will sit here and wait because you will not find one. Joe Burrow is an incredible talent. Joe Burrow is an incredible talent.
Well,
I
it
think
can
he has
be
a great
the
pocket
AFC
presence.
Championship game last year.
I think Joe Burrow is a solid runner. I think everything he does is phenomenal. And if Patrick Mahomes is not in the league, Joe Burrow might be the best quarterback. But he's not because Patrick Mahomes is in the league. And just Mahomes does things that everybody compares. Oh, that was a Mahomes-like play. That is how you know you are the best of the best. When people are saying that was a blank-like play.
Like he doesn't get as much credit.
Burrow?
As Mahomes, right?
Doesn't get as much credit.
Right, as Mahomes. Like I feel like people just don't pay attention to the Bengals.
John, John,
would
you like to hear my top 2 quarterbacks in the NFL right now? It's Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes, and not in that order. It's Patrick Mahomes first, but there's no discussion anymore.
I mean, Burrow's beating him every time.
And that's great, but I'm not talking about head-to-head. I'm talking about overall quarterback play. Mahomes is better. And also in those games when they've played, it's not Mahomes' fault. If you watch, the defense they've walked into, I believe, the fourth quarter with a lead almost every time. So the defense has got to step up a little bit. Spags' defense cannot stop Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow just slices and dices them, and the Bengals have the better overall defense. But there's no question.
At some point, like, you know what I mean? Like if Burrow's beating him every time, at some point you know, like you got to ask, like, is Burrow just better? Like,
no.
I mean, you're talking like it's a shut, like just nail the coffin.
Who's been to more championship games? Who has more Super Bowls right now?
Of course,
right now Mahomes is better.
Mahomes is the best quarterback, but I'm giving Burrow that number 2 spot. It's not like I'm saying he sucks. I'm strictly saying they are the top 2 quarterbacks, and there's no more debate about this. This conversation is over.
Really, right. Yeah. You're not like saying Burrow's number 17 or number 7. You're saying he's number 2. And winning this week and maybe a Super Bowl, maybe that changes a little bit.
What if he beats him again? What if he beats him in back-to-back AFC championships? He's 4-0 against him.
You know what? I'll tell you what,
What
John.
if he does?
I'll respond to that and tell you this. It depends on how the game goes. If Patrick Mahomes scores 30-plus points and the defense on the Chiefs gives up 30-plus, I'm not going to sit here and go, oh, well, Burrow is definitely better. I'm going to say they were both great quarterbacks that continue to prove my point, and the defense of the Chiefs just didn't do anything. Now, if the Bengals score 30-plus and the Chiefs get clobbered, and they just don't score, right, then I will, sit here and say, okay, there might be room for discussion now.
And
because
that's another question we have. I mean, is Mahomes even going to play? What's he gonna? What? He's not going to be at 100%.
he's going to play.
He's going to be at
He's gonna
70.
play. He's gonna play.
70% at best, because high ankle sprains are like
No, absolutely.
they're like minimum a month to
Look,
recover.
I'm going to say this.
Oh,
I'm
wait,
taking the
first of
Bengals this
all-
weekend. I'm taking the Bengals to win
First
for
of all, though,
plenty of reasons.
hang on one second. Besides the fact that Mahomes, is hurt, Chad Henne went in there and had a 98-yard drive for Kansas City that
I give him
ended that
credit for
game.
that.
So Mahomes didn't even beat that. That win, Chad Henne's drive iced that game.
No doubt.
Pacheco was fantastic for them
He
carrying
is-
the ball.
I don't know what they got to do, and I like Clyde Edwards-Helaire as a person. He's a very nice person.
His days are done. There.
But he's
Terrible.
again, super nice guy, but he's got to go. And it's somebody else can make use of him, and maybe he'll get a shot somewhere else, and his services will be needed. But Isaiah Pacheco and Jerick McKinnon are a 1-2 punch that unfortunately, it just leaves Helaire as he has no spot.
This comment cannot be overstated because it's a good point by Denzel. The winner could come out of the NFC because, the Bengals' offensive line is extremely banged up. They were missing 3 of their starters against Buffalo.
Last year, if it wasn't for 3 penalties in a row, the Rams don't win the Super Bowl.
Right.
So,
but what I'm saying is right
disrespect
now, what I'm saying right now, JB, is unless the Bengals' offensive line gets healthy, if they win this game, they got to get healthy fast because it's a couple weeks away from the Super Bowl. If Kansas City wins, Mahomes is not going to be at 100% by the time the Super Bowl comes. High ankle sprains do not heal that fast.
No.
So either way, you're either going to have a limited mobility in Mahomes or a bad offensive line, injury-wise, for the Bengals against Philly's front or San Francisco.
I was going to say 2 of the best fronts in all
It
football.
doesn't matter which team wins.
Oh, without a doubt, yeah.
Great fronts. So both teams from the AFC, whoever wins, is going to have their work cut out for them when Sideline Sports goes to Arizona to meet with them at Media Day. Sorry, shameless plug, but
I think the biggest thing that we're going to need to see is how Patrick Mahomes plays, because we're going to get a sense very quickly if he has any chance of even, getting through the game and not hurting himself further. Because if he looks okay, I think, KC has a chance. But more importantly, if they are to win and make it to the Super Bowl, I won't be super concerned about him because he's got a little extra rest. And if he looks okay, again, I don't know that he will. It's just if he doesn't, I don't care if they advance or not. I'm betting against them 100 times out of 100. It's just going to be one of those things that I got to see what he looks like, because Andy Reid has said he's responding well to treatment, and that's great. But I don't know what he's going to look like coming out of this. I have no idea.
For high ankle sprains, minimum is 3 to 4 weeks for the recovery time. Grade 2 is 5 to 8 weeks. So we don't know what grade he has, but if he has a grade 2, either way, Mahomes is not going to be even close to 100%.
I don't think
this
so.
game, or if they get to the Super Bowl, not going to be 100%. It makes for an interesting storyline heading into this week and possibly going forward. It's got really interesting. The NFC teams have to be licking their chops.
They got to beat each other up first. It's
gonna.
They got to get. And speaking of that,
I'm looking forward to this weekend. We have 2 really great games.
Absolutely.
San Fran's defense on Sunday night was unbelievable. The Eagles, we all know what they did. They didn't really play a game. They just had a nice practice.
They just had a nice little walkthrough.
Yeah. So,
and you know what?
It's
one of those things. I'll say this: the Giants lost. I don't care.
I just wanted to see the Giants show up and give them a fight.
They were
That's what I
flat-footed the whole game. They played flat-footed the whole game. I watched the game. I wasn't upset that we lost. I was upset at the effort put in. Just watching the game, they were flat-footed and looked disinterested. which after the season they had was totally opposite of everything we saw all year.
I don't disagree. I think they also just
Eagles.
ran into a much better team. I mean,
Right, and Daniel Jones reverted back to the guy that we think he is,
and
as opposed to the guy that he's been playing.
You know,
like,
it's funny, John.
you know what I mean?
You talk about how much money did he earn himself? Well, I can say on the flip side now, how much money did he just lose himself? Because that performance throws everything back into question because it makes it seem, well, which Daniel Jones are you going to get? And
Thank you.
if I'm a Giants fan, which, you know, that doesn't just analyze the game the way we do, I'm freaking out. As somebody who analyzes the game, I still continue to say, unless there's another quarterback you're going to get, we do not have the right draft pick to get a quarterback. You got to re-sign him, but you might be able to get some, you know, a more team-friendly deal with money. In terms of money, you might be able to do that.
We're stuck with 2 years with him.
And I'm okay with that.
That's my honest
because
or maybe you franchise him for 1 year and then
no, if anybody's getting franchised, it'll be Saquon probably.
Well, listen, 2 years, he's got to show what he's doing. And while that's
I'm okay with him coming back.
Go after a second or third tier quarterback who maybe, who knows? Look, Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, the last pick of the draft.
Yeah.
Is doing what he needs to do to get his team in the NFC Championship game, possibly in the Super Bowl. So
I mean, look,
guys out there that are in the first round.
Derek Carr would not be a bad option in New York.
I wouldn't be you know what? The truth is, no matter who.
He can't handle the pressure in New York. He can't handle the pressure.
Either way.
I'm just saying, like, I think that would be a nice fit.
Regardless of all of this, the Giants' biggest need is receivers. They have none. They have to fix the problem. And if they don't, it doesn't matter.
I read today that Kenny Galladay is going to be a cap casualty. They're going to cut him and save $13.5 million.
Yeah.
Which is nice for you guys because you finally will get out of that stupid contract that Gettleman. I have no idea why Gettleman ever did that, but you'll finally get out of it.
Look, I don't know that it's going to happen. Let me rephrase that. I don't anticipate this happening in a million years. It's very unlikely. But I will say it's an option, and if it were to happen, I would be ecstatic. DeAndre Hopkins wants out of Arizona, and while I do not think the Giants have any real chance of getting him, I don't think they're trading for him. It's something that I do believe the team should certainly look into, because if you get him, I think with the way this team is constructed, him, hopefully Saquon comes back. We have a decent supporting cast. I think Isaiah Hodgins can be a nice, maybe number 2, definitely a good number 3 receiver for us, because he's proven, especially if Jones comes back, that they have a great rapport. Slayton's good. Shepard will be back. We just need a true alpha number 1. That is the biggest problem. We don't have that. We have a lot of great number 2, number 3 options, and that's awesome. It's a plethora of number 2s. Honestly, if we send one of them back, if we are to get DeAndre Hopkins, I'm cool with that. But we need that number 1 guy. That is what we're still looking for, and that's what Kenny Galladay was supposed to be. We still need that.
Go on, JB.
I don't know. I don't know what the answer is at receiver. I can tell you what we have right now is not.
No.
And we expect a lot of Daniel Jones without receivers and with a line that's getting better but not very
and that's part of the problem. It's like, well, he doesn't have receivers, so it's always, again, what can he do with actual receivers? If he had a guy like DeAndre Hopkins or Devontae Adams or Jamar Chase or any of those extremely talented guys, what would he be like? I don't know. That's a question I continue to wonder, is what would Daniel Jones look like with guys that he can trust, that he can throw up those 50-50 balls and say, go get it, because that is what they do. I don't know. It might be for the best. I don't know.
So Miami is the right now, according to Pro Football Focus, from what I read, Miami is the front runner to land Saquon right now. As according to Pro Football Focus, Miami's
that's if he doesn't return to the Giants.
He'll be franchise tag before he's done.
He's not leaving.
If you lose Saquon, what do you think of this? If the Cowboys cut Zeke, what about a prove-it deal? 1 year prove-it deal with Zeke.
I'm not against it at that point, but we're not losing.
We had this whole Zeke talk earlier in the year. Remember, JB said Zeke's washed up. Now you want the Giants to sign him?
Well, I didn't say it was.
I didn't say that either. That was your opinion.
That
Don't
was you.
Don't force your agenda onto John and I.
Exactly.
John and I agree that would not be the worst thing.
I think he would be nice I think he'd be nice in with the Giants. 1 year prove it deal.
I don't know.
Again,
It wouldn't be that much money. I would imagine it would probably be like a $5 million contract,
No.
1 year, $5 million. It's
probably
a
little
prove
more
it
than
deal.
that. A little
It's a
more
prove
than
it deal. Like he's potentially declining. He's gonna get cut.
Do you think he's starting for $4 or $5 million, John? I don't think
don't
so.
know.
I
about
think
that.
so. It's a prove it deal. That's what prove it deals are.
And I will say, I'm just curiously looking at who are free agents in terms of wide receivers. The Giants are in trouble. There is nobody. Like the best guys that are available are going to be. All right. Sterling Shepard is also a free agent. I did not realize that. That's not great. You're going to have Alan Lazard, Juju Smith-Schuster. I mean, those are like your top options. I mean,
and I feel like if you go Lazard, it kind of feels like a Kenny Galladay thing all over again.
But like, it's just.
I'm not thrilled with any of those options.
But that's what they're not. There is nobody good available, unfortunately.
By the way, Richie James really was nice for you.
He's also a free agent. And I'm not opposed to re-signing
another
him.
3-4.
But right, it's just a lot of lowered guys in terms of where they live, where they list. I need the number one. That's what I continue to beg for. But sure, we could go sign one of those free agent guys, but they're just. I don't know that they're the true number one. I don't know. We'll see. Real quick, let's take some predictions for the NFC Championship. I'll start with you, John, because we talked about the AFC and we discussed that stuff. I want to talk about the NFC real quick.
Yeah, I mean, I think Philly beats them by 14. I think they get after Purdy. I don't think this is I think the defense for the Niners keeps them in it long enough to where they survive into the second half. But I think that much like what happened to the Cowboys with the Niners, I think that defense wears down eventually and Philly just pounds them. And I just think like the Cowboys, they got after Purdy and really made him uncomfortable.
Oh, I want to talk about the Cowboys in a minute, by the way.
But I think that's what the Eagles end up doing to this fraud in Brock Purdy. And I think that the Eagles win by at least 2 touchdowns. And that's being generous. I don't think the Niners are close to the Eagles as far as offensively. Defensively, they're both really good. But offensively, I just think the Eagles are better. And I think Purdy is a fraud. And I look forward to him getting exposed.
There's nothing to expose with him. Nobody's acting like he's the next coming
everybody's
of
acting like
Tom
this
Brady.
guy's the next Joe Montana or Tom Brady.
No, but I don't think anybody's saying
absolutely
that.
not. Nobody is saying that. They're saying he can manage the ball. He can manage the offense.
And all I'm saying here is these
if you give me
Purdy jokes, I'm tired of it. Enough of the Brock Purdy.
Nobody's saying he's that good. I don't know where you're seeing this.
He has a top 3 running back. He has McCaffrey. Then he has
one of the best receiving players.
He has Kittles, who's a top 4, top 3 tight end. Then he's got Debo and Ayuk for top wide receivers tandem. All he has to do is pick out which guy who's open to get the ball to.
Don't forget to mention that he's got one of the greatest offensive linemen in all of football. I mean, it just keeps going. He doesn't have to do much. He just has to toss the ball like 2 yards.
Pretty bright offensively.
Yeah. But I'm just talking about the guys on the field with him.
It's not like we're putting him on the Giants and say, here, make this offense work. You've got Saquon, who may be healthy.
That's pretty hard.
And no receivers with a line that you're going to run for your life. No, he's got a nice setup.
He's on an offense that's built to just be easy to use.
Yes.
It's very user-friendly.
It's like when you go to buy a new car. You can buy a stick shift or you can buy a manual, automatic, John. He's got an automatic.
He's got the nice easy. So, JB,
he's got the Tesla that drives itself.
Exactly. JB, very quickly, give us a prediction for the NFC Championship.
49ers all the way. It's going to probably be 17-13.
Yeah, I agree, actually. I think Philly has a great offense, and there's no question, but so do the Niners. Excuse me, because Brock Purdy, like we just said, he doesn't have to do anything. That's the thing that I love about this offense is we could go out there. All you got to do is get in your playmaker's hands, and that's kind of what this offense is built on. And he actually has the ability to make some good throws, deep downfield. He's not great, but he has the ability to make those throws if need be, especially to Kittle. He seems to like that as a safety blanket. I mean, who wouldn't? But with that said, I think it's going to be more of a defensive struggle, in my opinion. I don't think it's going to be 17-13 necessarily. I think it's going to be probably in the 20s for each respective squad, probably closer to 23-20, something like that. There's no question it's going to be a close game. It's two of the best defenses and two of the best, again, on paper offenses in terms of just everything that they have. I think for me, what it's going to come down to is who gets to the quarterback. Because both offensive lines are great. Both defensive lines are great. Just who gets to the quarterback first.
So, Mr. J&J Express, JB, Eagles are favored by 2.5, which, I mean...
They're at home. That's expected.
So, right, but that means the Niners are favored, right? Because that's normally you get 3 points as a home team, right?
It's basically a pick-em.
Theoretically, but it's a pick-em when it's that close. And
when it's honestly, under 3 is just pick it. It doesn't matter.
To me, this game's coming down to defense. The 49ers, nobody really been able to abuse that defense. Their defense is phenomenal. Offensively, they have all the weapons. Purdy just has to not think and just do what he does. I wish that, everything in life was as easy as the 49ers offense. It's turnkey. Walk right in. I mean, there's nothing more you could ask for.
It's like a hot knife through butter. That's what it is.
So it's
so
like walking into Thanksgiving dinner and it's
already. You know what,
made
John? You know what it's
Basically.
like, John? You know what it is? It's like predicting what the Cowboys are going to do on any given season, which is the same cycle of garbage they do every year. It starts at the top, and the top of the circle is we're going to, this is our year. They always say it. Then they get off to a good start. Things keep going. Oh, this is definitely our year. They get to the bottom of the circle. Now this is towards the middle to the end of the season. Oh, this is our year. Oh, yeah, we're really good. We got this. Dak is that guy every year. And you get to the playoffs. This year was a little different. They got one win. Congratulations. But more importantly, they get to this spot right here. And what is that spot? They lose in the playoffs, embarrassing fashion, because they're the Cowboys, and that's what they do. And the cycle starts all over again. Dallas Cowboys are the most pathetic franchise in all of football, and I said it. I don't care. They have accepted mediocrity in losing. They have a quarterback that I think is average at best. Thank you, JT. That's it right there. See, that's it. That's what I'm saying.
In all of sports.
That is exactly what I had in my head. Thank you. Thank you, JT. I love that you brought this up. But this is
Listen, all I'm going to say is Michael Cartenuto has showed that thing like 4 times today because everyone keeps sending it to him. And I love it. Everyone keep abusing Michael. Let it keep coming.
Let it keep coming. But it's true because the
looked
Cowboys...
like a dog with his tail between his legs yesterday when he did the show. Like his head was down and he was just like, he's just like that. Like
But it's every year. It's the same garbage. Dak is one of those quarterbacks that he's a great regular season. He's a good regular season.
What do you do, Jake? What do you do at this?
I'm looking to trade him. Honestly, I don't want him because he threw the most picks in the league and he missed 4 games.
He missed a lot of games.
That's pathetic.
Forget about the picks. It was a winnable game in San Francisco and Santa Clara when they played. But why did they lose? He couldn't hit Zeke on screen passes.
He couldn't hold on to the ball. He turned it over twice. I mean, come on.
His passes were all over the place. He didn't lead receivers to the right spot. He's the difference in them winning losing.
And JB, I want to take 2 seconds because he's not the only one to blame. Because this to me was emblematic of the Cowboys as a whole. This is their season, and it includes the playoff. Towards the end of the game, the second to last play, Dak to Dalton Schultz. Dalton Schultz catches it, and he just he puts one foot down and just gingerly slides and goes out of bounds and doesn't get the second foot down. And
that's
to
not
me,
why they lost, though.
No,
that's
but
not why they lost.
I want to talk about.
Sense of urgency.
I picked that play. That's exactly what it is, John. There is
Oh,
he
yeah.
was
I
so
agree.
nonchalant. It is so emblematic to me of what the Cowboys are, which is, oh well, everything will be fine. We got this. And they're not putting in the required effort to win and do the right things, and they do that, and that's why they lose. Those kinds of
They're
things are what
horrible.
make the Cowboys
They are
what they are.
horrible.
They
All
are
right, AFC
horrible.
real quick because we're running out of time. AFC, John.
Yeah, like I said, I think the Bengals win this one. I think they would have won either way, but with Mahomes injured, I think they win by double digits. I think they end up winning by 14.
I'm with you, John. I don't think they're winning by double digits, maybe. Yeah,
I mean,
I'm
if
probably taking the
Mahomes is
Bengals.
60% or
we
he
got
can't play, you know.
about 45 seconds. I'm taking the Bengals 10-point win. I really think they
I
can do
got-
this.
I got the Bengals. I'm not sure how much of a win it's going to be, how many points they win by. I just think Mahomes being hurt is the nail
I
in the
agree.
coffin for Kansas City.
Absolutely.
They need him 100% to win this game, and it's not happening.
All right, about 20 seconds. JB, social media, very quickly.
JB_ the program this week at the National Scouting Combine in Indianapolis.
John.
Yeah, Blue Hawks 13. Check out all of the National Scouting Combine stuff we got going on this week.
Absolutely. And you guys can find me on Twitter at Jake_Malik and all the stuff scrolling across your screen for Sideline Sports. And on that note, everybody have a good one. We'll see you next week.